With South Africa commemorating Youth Month, youth empowerment is leading the conversation. Youth Month 2025 is commemorated under the theme Skills for the Changing World, Empowering Youth for Meaningful Economic Participation. Access to early childhood development programs is critical, with estimated 1.3 million children struggling to gain access. How does this then affect the fight against unemployment in the country? We've now roped in Deb Zelezniak, CEO of Santa Shoebox Project. Zeb, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for being patient with us and for your time. Just as we look at how significant this month is, particularly when we talk about youth empowerment, give us a sense in terms of how dire the situation is and the issue of ECD access and what extent is the lack of funding exacerbating this particular problem?
It is definitely exacerbating the problem, Unati. With 1.3 million children having no access at all to early childhood development programs, we are anticipating a kind of lost generation of children who are simply not equipped to enter grade R and commence their educational careers. With only just over 2% of the Department of Basic Education budget allocated to early childhood development, it's simply insufficient to meet the ultimate goal of the Banapele registration drive, that of having every child 5 years and under enrolled in an ECD program by 2030.
When we look at the theme for this year, empowering youth for meaningful economic participation, and then you look at just some of the statistics around youth unemployment, but also at an education level, when we start talking about children not having access, to those very important ECDs, how would that look like? How would a future of an empowered youth look like to you?
Well, it would certainly include matriculation from a robust educational system. It would look at somebody who is confident and empowered to either access tertiary education or enter the workforce as a skilled adult with the ability to know how to learn, because that's ultimately what education is all about. It's not simply spoon-feeding information, it's teaching how to learn. And those all-important Thrive by 5 years are critical to setting a child up for exactly that goal, knowing how to listen, how to absorb, then basic skills like numeracy and literacy, of course, and then those softer skills of the psychosocial development, reaching the developmental milestones. It's not a rosy picture, with almost 1.5 children currently not having access to ECD.
And just staying on ECD, just give us the lay of the land in terms of the kind of quality we're seeing at ECD level. How do you think, especially when we speak from a quality perspective, how does it go a long way in closing those inequality gaps that we are currently seeing? And I suppose boosting then the long-term, national outcomes, particularly when we start looking at empowering the youth.
Absolutely. Look, of the 42,500 ECDs accounted for in the recent census, almost 40,000 of those are registered. The Banapele drive to register every ECD operating in South Africa is a robust and respectable first step in ensuring that the now 20 billion rand allocated to ECD, 10 billion in the budget and 10 billion in the recent revision for the medium term, over the next 3 years, specifically in support of another 700,000 children accessing ECD. But of course, ECD needs to be a quality offering. Teachers need to be trained. Nutrition has to be in place. Teaching resources have to be equally distributed. Infrastructure needs to be maintained and made available. There isn't, in fact, enough access. In terms of infrastructure, there's simply not sufficient ECDs to cater for all the children within those first 5 years. There's a lot of work to be done, but I am confident that the DBE is addressing those needs, certainly with the additional 10 billion, which will enable the child grant, the ECD child grant, to be increased from 17 Rand, where it had remained unchanged for 6 years, to now 24 Rand. Unfortunately, though, it costs in real terms 36 Rand per child per day to offer a quality ECD offering. We're taking small steps. I don't think that what has been allocated is sufficient. There will be a knock on. And what is surprising to me is that the return on investment for money invested in ECD is massive. It's 7-1. So it's not an unproved, endless pool of resources. It can be very carefully trained to exactly where the need is.
And I mean, as we wrap up our conversation, we look at these small steps. They are, good news, I would imagine, but it would probably take us a while to get that kind of universal ECD access and make that a reality. What do you think in the immediate term? While you welcome this move to increase the funding and also acknowledge that DBE is doing some work, groundwork that is important, but just in terms of universal ECD access, making that a reality, what would it take in the immediate term?
What I would encourage the Department of Basic Education to do is to remove the barriers to entry for unregistered ECDs to register and access funding. I would also encourage the DBE to make it easier for ECDs to register their facilities as grade R, which is now a compulsory grade within the education department. The intention is there, but I do feel the tools are not being adequately rolled out. I must support the DBE, though, in acknowledging that registration is paramount. Let's make that as easy as possible.
Absolutely. Deb, thank you so much for your time. And of course, that correlation with just giving access to young people as young as ECD levels so that we can see empowered youth. But thank you so much for your time. Deb Zelezniak, CEO of the Santa Shoebox Project, there for us on Youth Month.